Alright, Season 11 is finally done. Now it's time for me to rank them. And I have been meaning to talk about these for a while now, especially Ash vs. Yugi, which recently came out, that I decided to hold off on until making this video. So here's just a rundown of this list. I'm going to include every episode we got this year in 2025, and the 4 episodes we got prior. So Bowser vs. Eggman, Joker vs. Giorno, Omni-Man vs. Bardock, and Among Us vs. Fall Guys will be on this list. I know I could just do a separate ranking for them, but honestly, I think they still count for one season. So with all that said and done, let's get started, because we have a lot more to cover than the previous 2 seasons that I actually ranked. Also, just a quick heads up, I might not have a lot to say for some of the episodes I reviewed, but I'll at least try to give somewhat of detail as of why they rank higher or lower than some of you might expect. Especially since some places on this list actually have been changed. So, that's gonna be a fun surprise. Anyway, let's get started. Like I mentioned, we have a lot to get through.
Is this necessary?
Oh wow, Bowser vs. Eggman is in last place. I still don't really care about this episode, but what more do you want me to talk about that I haven't mentioned in my video covering the episode already? This episode is overrated. I don't know why it's like the best episode ever. I actually disagree with that now. I can think of 3 other episodes that fit that quota. Although, if I had to say something I still love about this episode, it's the track. I do still love Game Over. Now, you may think this episode being at the very bottom of the list means I hate it. Well, no. This is just me not really being that interested in it anymore. If I could actually watch this episode right in front of you, then yeah, I can watch it just fine. The episode isn't really the problem here, it's just me not really caring that much about this episode. Even though I could sort of understand why you love this, but no, please. I could give you 3 episodes that are better than this. Overall, this episode I just don't really care about, and I already want to move on. I'm sorry this didn't really start off with the best entry, but now let's get to an episode I actually like, and from here on out, we're getting into the good/perfect category.
Dead? I mean, more dead?
So, I've heard bad reception about Kratos vs. Azura, and I honestly don't know why. Believe it or not, I actually really like this episode. I might not have a ton to talk about with this one, since this isn't really an episode I go to that much, but still, I really like this episode. I wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10, but at most I would say maybe an 8.5 out of 10. The fight's good, it's got some good combat, Kratos' weapons look good, and I have to say, Azura's transformations throughout the entire episode look fantastic, especially the last 2. And I guess, like usual, I mentioned the music, so Ryori is a track that I kinda don't really listen to that much, but whenever I do, it's actually pretty nice. Although the artwork for it does look pretty awesome, I actually love the artwork. And since this was Azura's first debut in Death Battle, it was actually fun to learn about his character since I've never even heard of him before. And I gotta say, they kinda went all out with this episode because they actually gave us a fully animated alternate ending. That's pretty impressive right there. To be honest with you, I don't really have a lot more to talk about with this episode, but I think it's good. I don't understand why you all hate it so much. But like usual with lists like this, and even season rankings like this is all just simply my own opinion. I can sort of understand why you hate this one, but for the life of me, I cannot understand why you love Bowser vs. Eggman as your absolute favorite episode, and I want to be done with that, so, I'm gonna get my weapons and move on to the next entry. I wasn't really expecting to play 2 AVGN clips for these segments, but there you go. Anyway, Master Chief vs. Doom Guy, I'm gonna call him that for this segment if anyone has a problem with that, is quite good. It's definitely better than Kratos vs. Azura, but not by much. Even though I really like this episode, I'm actually kind of surprised it ranks lower than I thought it would. But however, what places it above Kratos vs. Azura, I was originally going to switch the 2 around, but then I realized that this specific episode was actually the first time I ever saw this with a real friend of mine, John. We played in Hangout, and coincidentally, Master Chief vs. Doom Guy was actually going to air that same day. I did a reaction on Instagram if anyone's wondering, but anyway, if I don't really have a ton to say for this segment, which I kind of don't plan to, but I'll at least try. This episode does have a special place in my heart because, like I mentioned, this was the first time I had a real friend over to watch this with me, and we both had a great time checking the episode out. Anyway, now on to the episode. I think it's kind of great, sort of. The weapons look good, and both voice actors do a good job. There are a few moments that do stick out to me that I can remember easily, like the time the 2 of them went to hell. Them using the BFG and Spartan laser to collide with one another, I think that was a well done scene. Even the scene where Doom Guy launches a rocket but then misses, so he runs all the way back to the rocket just to get it and throw it to the Chief. I think that's a really funny scene, and I love how they brought it up in the ending analysis. Oh yeah, and the Chief using Meta's gun at the beginning of the fight when Doom Guy gets his chainsaw out, I wasn't really expecting that, but hey, it's a neat reference. Oh yeah, and the final scene where Doom Guy gets his sword, I forgot what it's called, and then just finishes the Chief off in a really good death. And when the ending scene actually poses Doom Guy like that, and demons come towards him, it really does look like the Doom 2016 wallpaper, doesn't it? Even if I don't watch this episode a lot, I do think this is a great episode. And before anybody asks, I think this is better than the original because there's just more stuff happening and more weapons being added. that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, I actually forgot to mention the track for this episode so far. Hail the Hell is good, but I wasn't really expecting it to be an opera, sort of. This I was definitely expecting some vocals, but they still did the job, so good job, fan choir. Maybe one day I can join you for Bluey vs. Kirito. We'll see, though.
Oh my god, it's Bugs Bunny!
Okay, this is definitely going to be a controversial pick, mainly because of how low it is, but Tom vs. Wily is this low, not because I hate the episode by any means, but I mainly had a bad first experience, and also I think it's just kind of good-ish, somewhat. I'll at least say it's a little better than the previous entry. Now, why do I say I had a bad first impression with it? It wasn't the episode, but rather John actually came over and, Here, I'll make this short and sweet without having any personal info. There were problems during the recording. That's all I'm gonna say. Anyway, this is one I'm definitely not gonna have a lot to talk about. But I will say this though, Tom and Jerry on Death Battle? Let's freaking go! I probably would have said that when I actually saw the trailer. Well, not the one that was coming out back in 2024, but the one that actually came up this year. Here, I'll mention this. Wild Tomfoolery is a good track. And I'll say this, I'm not the biggest fan of Looney Tunes, so seeing Wile E. Coyote here probably wasn't the first Looney Tunes character I was expecting. I was expecting maybe Bugs or someone like that. But still, not a bad choice. If I could describe this fight in one sentence, it's a fun, chaotic mess. I love how the opening on Tom and Jerry's side actually just recreate the episodes from back then. Wiley's intro trying to catch the Roadrunner was fine, I guess. And then things escalate once the two of them actually crash into the house that was on the moving truck. No context for that, but you know what, it's fine. I'm not complaining. And then pure looniness. Can I say that? You know what? I'm gonna say it. Pure looniness happens. Like the war scene that actually happens for about a minute. To the two of them exiting the house while still trying to beat the shit out of each other. And yeah, here's one thing I can actually mention that's rather confusing. Tom losing almost all of his lives right out of the gate. Yeah, it's weird, but I guess I could kind of understand why. Oh yeah, and the Looney DNA Dissolver was actually a pretty concerning scene. Then they fall to the ground. At one point, the house crashes on Wily. Then Tom dies, and I'm sorry, I'm not in the mood to talk about this anymore. Don't get me wrong, a very good episode, but I just don't have aiming to place it any higher than this, especially since the episodes from here just get better and more memorable for me. Alright, so I guess I'll kind of quote Wily, sort of-ish. Who's next? Oh wait, no, that was The Mask. I was a little harsh on Dante vs. Clive, because once that fight was over, I was happy seeing the episode, but then Ash vs. Yugi's trailer came out, and I immediately pushed that episode aside in favor of this. So, why do I place this so low, you may be wondering? Two big complaints. One, I don't care about Dante, and two, I really wish it was Bayonet instead of Clive. But you know what? Even with those two problems, this was still surprisingly a great episode. The different abilities and forms these two have were great, and even though I knew nothing about Clive before this episode came out, it was actually neat to learn about his character from the analysis, and the ending analysis was good too, even if I kinda don't really check it out that much. Okay, let me get my review of The Devil Within out of the way. So, I'm not kidding with you, around the time this track came out, I got major Ash vs. Yugi vibes. I feel like this was the track that was supposed to be for the episode, but instead, it's this. On one hand, that's how excited I was, to where I just considered the previous episode's track to be the one for Ash vs. Yugi, and secondly, that's also how good this song really is. Anyway, I might not have a ton to talk about with this entry, because, I mean, if this was Link vs. Cloud or Sephiroth vs. Virgil, I might be here for at least 2 minutes, but yeah, I know I don't need to go into super big detail about my reviews or anything, so I'll just go over what's memorable to me. The two of them unleashing their monsters into the air was incredible, the button mashing scene was actually super tense. The smoking sexy style thing I think is funny, but also like, oh my god, that's so awesome. Clive's abilities, like him punching Dante, was cool. Oh yeah, when Dante pulled on his fedora, no kidding, why does he remind me of Michael Jackson? I mean, he literally did the moonwalk and the pose during the fireworks scene when Clive actually grabbed him. Oh yeah, when Dante had a clone that was going after Clive, he formed this bazooka, which I think looked pretty cool. The environment here looks amazing. And the part where the two of them throw their swords at each other was actually kind of tense. I'm actually surprised that Dante lost, but hey, I'm happy about that, and screw you, Dante, that's for killing Bayonetta, fuck off. I guess their dialogue was cool, by Dante even saying Virgil has some competition, like, that's a good reference. And I don't really have a lot more to say, so I guess since we executed the devil, we can move on. Hey, so, editor's note here, that actually wasn't the segment I was trying to open up on, because I had a funnier idea, so, I'm gonna play it, so just pretend that previous segment didn't happen.
Final Fantasy III, get it or die.
Come on, Trish. You missed.
While making this segment of the video, I actually forgot to use it, so, yeah, let's move on to the next entry.
You know what's bullshit?
vampire.
Wow, I can't stop using moments from AVGN. I swear, I'm not doing this intentionally. So anyway, I might not have a lot to say about Blade vs. Buffy, but I can say this right out of the gate, this is easily the best live-action death battle. And what's that? There's actually a bit of story before the actual fight starts. I actually like that. The actor and actress who played Blade and Buffy played this off pretty well. And I like the beginning, like I literally just mentioned, of this vampire cult, I guess? Yeah, let's go with that. The main woman vampire was actually right about to target an innocent person until Blade and Buffy then step in and kill literally every single person. Until it was just the two of them. By the way, I almost never knew who Buffy really was until this episode came out, so it was actually fun to learn about her character from the analysis, and I already knew about Blade except some of his weapons like the breathing gun, and yeah, the breathing gun does look really good in this episode. Then again, every single weapon in this episode looks good. Even the freaking location is fitting in this episode. Like, this episode does everything right. Except it's right outside the top 10. Yeah, it's only because episodes from here just get better, trust me. Anyway, on to Neon Ash, which is the track for this episode. Despite how simple the artwork is, I do still like it, and the track itself is actually really fitting. Kind of like some of these other episodes back when I knew they were coming out, I was expecting to have some big rock metal vocal version or something like that. But this is another example of something that you don't need vocals to even sound so good. Or stand out. It's what I actually said with Ego Death from Magneto vs. Tetsuo. So here's something to mention. When Buffy actually cut the breathing gun in half and the part actually went to her leg, I thought that would slowly kill her, but no, it didn't. I mean, maybe it said it better in the analysis if I paid more attention, but I only saw the analysis like once. Not the ending analysis, though. And also, Buffy's axe looks awesome, and it gave us a great death. Yeah, I don't really have a lot more to say. I did say I wouldn't have a lot to talk about with this. So let's enter the top 10. Barely all of these episodes in the upcoming 10 are ones I've been meaning to talk about for a long time that I already haven't mentioned, although 2 of them I already reviewed. Just throwing it out there. Anyway, on to the 10th place spot.
This is for all the people that we killed in your name. I wish we were never foolish enough to obey you.
I already talked about Bardock in one of my videos where he's now my favorite Dragon Ball character, and by the way, that kind of does still hold up even though he's just been kind of forgotten, but I do love his first episode debut when he went up against Omni-Man. Man, I love this episode. Even though I haven't seen this episode in quite a while, I might not have a ton to talk about, but you should kind of get used to that by now. Let me say this right out of the gate. Okay, 2 things I'll say right out of the gate. The CG for Omni-Man here does look pretty well, and same with Bardock. And also, Solid Scene Invincible, I'm sorry, this is just better than Diabolical Invincible made. Not because that track was bad or anything, but this is just more catchy and more memorable. Bardock's attacks and forms look good, especially the Great Ape when he actually fires that beam, and when he went Super Saiyan going super fast. That caught me off guard, and I love it. Nolan, I guess, is cool. I mean, I don't really have a ton to talk about with him, but okay. As for the death where Bardock loses a part of his arm and actually slowly falls to the blue star behind him, no kidding, that actually made me feel sad watching it on my first viewing. I hate to tell you all this, but I literally don't know what else to talk about. This is mainly because I haven't seen the episode in a while, because it's been kind of forgotten, including the track, but still, my opinion hasn't changed on how much I enjoy this episode. This might be because I'm not a diehard fan of Dragon Ball and Invincible, so if I at least like them more, then I would probably watch this more, but no, not really, I'm sorry. Although if anyone is interested in hearing my video about Bardock, I'll link it in the description if anyone's curious. So now, let's enter the vents into the next one.
Among Us, Among Us, Among Us, Among Us, Among Us, Among Us.
I love Among Us vs. Fall Guys. I don't know where to begin on this one. Despite me knowing the game since I think 2020, which was around the time when COVID hit, yeah, that's how long I've known about this game. And to see it on Death Battle for the first time, I was actually kind of excited. And in my opinion, the episode at all did not disappoint me. I was already invested by the sneak peek, and I thought this would be like an actual parody of the game, but it ended up doing a 180, as we went from the Skells for about 20 seconds up until a Fall Guys course, and I guess I'll say this, Sussy Beans is a great track that actually fits the episode, and once again, you don't need vocals to make this track stand out from the crowd. This is just a goofy but overall fun episode. While the crewmates do everything they can to actually get through the course, although most of them die along the way and some of the Fall Guys actually lose, when the 4 or 5 of them actually make it onto that panel, I actually haven't seen the episode in a while, so I think it's 4? Or 5. I'm not sure, though. Anyway, when the panel lights up and the light blue imposter actually twerks, I was just laughing my ass off for a second when I actually first saw this. I wasn't expecting them to do that, but then again, though, I guess I should have expected that. Anyway, I love when the dark blue crewman actually uses his tablet to get the crown virtually, but in reality, no, he dies from that punching Jack-in-the-Box thing. I forgot what it's called. That the pink Fall Guy uses. Then when the blue imposter gets his knife out and actually tries to stab one of them, he actually gets a brutal death from the hammer. Then it's all down to the pink and purple Fall Guy that actually gets gets to the crown. And what's that? When the pink Fall Guy actually gets to the crown, the purple Fall Guy climbs back up, revealing it to be Red in disguise. I just love that moment. I even gave that a small round of applause. While Red tries to actually kill Pink, I think I'll just call him that for the rest of this segment. His knife does nothing, his bullet actually bounces back, and I just love the way he pulls the gun out. Then at one point where Red gets thrown almost off the stage they were on, he actually detonates the banana bomb from the Henry Sickman series, which I thought was a cool reference. Maybe we'll get Henry one day, I don't know though. Anyway, they both fly off from the stage after being exploded. I like it how Pink still tries to get the crown with his stretchy arm, but then Red actually uses the teleporter to go right in front of him and basically tackle him, as the dead crewmates actually try to help out and even the remaining Fall Guys. From the brown one making a shield around the crown, to one of them using the Pac-Man outfit that, yes, Boomstick, we get it, they can become Pac-Man. I think it's funny and cool, but you don't need to say that for like the trillionth time. I love how Red actually uses his gun and makes it a flamethrower and whips it around. I just think that looks awesome as Pink actually enters the booth from Doctor Who. Anyway, he safely avoids it, then uses his power sword that actually cuts the gun. Then Red actually uses a magic pencil. Thank God it's not a SpongeBob reference, I swear to God. Makes his own sword, and then the collision between these two is just incredible, especially the spin. I just love the impact. When Pink sees the crown again, he just ditches the entire fight in general and just tries to catch it. However, Red eventually catches up and almost tries to eat Pink. However, Pink gets flashbacks if Red actually won. And doing the moment he kind of should have done already, he grabs the crown while Red is reeling him in and then basically impales him. Then it cuts to Pink back on the stage where they actually blew up, afraid of the gore that's literally right in front of him, but then he gets the crown, shrugs it off like it's nothing, and, well, okay, not literally, but I'm just saying, he kind of literally shrugs it off like nothing, and then he just dances for a moment, and then that's it. By the way, I want to mention this, I barely ever play Fall Guys, but I didn't know they could survive meteors and the entire big fucking bang. Like, oh my god. I think that's awesome, but at the same time, I just think that's hilarious. And the ending analysis was actually fun too. Overall, this is a fantastic episode. It should be no surprise why it's in my top 10. Anyway, we won the match! Rematch? No, we're on to the next entry. Oh, maybe another time.
You can enter the third dimension with Spawn, the Eternal!
Can I please just say this right now? I fucking love Ghost Rider vs. Spawn. This is better than both episodes they debuted from. I'm not even fucking kidding with you. I think I did briefly mention this, but now it's my full review. Or at least I hope full review. But I'll just try to get my opinion across. Now, as for the track Hell's Angels, I said in my Season 6 video that this is so much better of a song than Ride to Hell, or Ride into Hell. That's all I'm gonna say, great song in general. Let me say this, the atmosphere for the beginning of the fight where Spawn is actually up on the tower actually looks really cool, and the voice acting for both him and Ghost Rider sound great. Honestly, I might not have a ton to say up until maybe the ending, so I'll just say this, all the action, weapons, and even the mention of the power meter from Spawn actually look great here. It is cool that they finally mentioned it, because if anyone doesn't know, when Spawn was up against Kratos back in Season 1, they actually didn't include that for some reason. Now, as for the ending, when Spawn actually ascends to heaven and actually gains his wings, the transformation looks really cool. Oh yeah, I should mention, the one-liners here are just so fucking good. From Spawn's very first line to his God forbid, to even... No, let me just say this for a moment. When Ghost Rider's chains actually take off Spawn's wings, he almost identically recites the line he said while actually trying to kill Lobo. Although that was a phenomenal line in that episode, here it's done just slightly better. However, before Ghost Rider can actually use the penance stare on Spawn, chains appear around his skull as he says this: "I eat sin for breakfast. Have a taste of your own goddamn medicine." I just can't help but think that's funny, but also badass the way he says that. The ending plus the ending analysis are actually great stuff, so I don't really have a lot more to say about this episode, so... I guess we can move on.
You must have forgotten how our last fight went. You were literally a one-tap.
I'm surprised some people have said this was just decent, and this is going to be a controversial opinion, but I love Deku vs. Miles Morales. Not as good as his fight with Asa, but still, I love this episode. Now, this episode came out on July 2025, which was actually not too long ago. And the track You Say Danger was actually shortly after that episode, so if anyone has tried to see my reaction where I was actually in a completely different location, rather than at my house, I actually had a concert to go to, and while I was actually on the way to New York, I actually was listening to this song for most of the ride there and back. I'm not even kidding with you. In fact, I distinctively remember falling asleep while listening to You Say Danger on the way home. I'm not kidding. Sure, it's not as metal as Strongest Alive, but still, like a 9 out of 10 song. Now, as for the fight, the comic book style and way the fight actually opens up when the transition from Deku actually tackling Miles into an abandoned part of the city, and the ending actually look really cool, and they actually fit Miles' character. I guess Deku too? Actually, yeah, we can include the manga. Well, sorta. Anyway, both models of Miles and Deku here look great, and their weapons, abilities, and stuff like that all look fantastic, especially the ending. Even though I love Miles vs. Static, it was actually cool to see him come back again, since I'm now a Spider-Man fan. Well, I mean, I have been for a decent portion of my life, but still, it was actually cool to see him return. Now, I'm not going to go front to back on this episode, because I don't really have a ton to talk about with this, but I'll at least just point some things out that are actually memorable to me. At the first part of the battle where Deku actually gets caught in the web and Miles actually kicks him, that reminds me a lot of Batman vs. Spider-Man back in Season 1, and that's a good reference. The glowing yellow abilities that Miles have look great, especially when he actually pulls out a sword. I legit didn't know he could actually use a sword, but okay. The close-up of when Miles' web gauntlet actually breaks looks really cool. And when the two of them say their final line while actually making their final collision of punches, and then when Deku just says plus ultra, it's just done phenomenally well, as the multi-punches actually hit Miles, and we get to see the different colors of him actually fade behind him, if that made any sense. And his final line of saying Spider-Man is the ultimate was actually kind of cool, so I don't know, I like it. Overall, I'm not really sure why people think this is just decent. I think this is a great episode. Again, this is just simply my own opinion. So yeah, I did say I wasn't really going to have a lot to talk about with this, so let's move on.
Hulk smash!
Hulk vs. Godzilla is incredible. I don't know where to begin on this one. Okay, since this is Godzilla's return and Hulk's third episode, dare I say this is the best Hulk episode so far, even though I love the other two episodes he's in, where he's up against Doomsday and against Broly. The atmosphere and everything else looks fantastic. Oh yeah, let me say this, I was definitely expecting Madness of the Monster to have vocals, but nope, and like I already mentioned for like the fourth time now, this is a great example of an instrumental track where you don't need vocals to stand out from the crowd. So, I don't have a lot to talk about, so I'll at least try. This is the first time ever when this episode came out that actually made me interested in Hulk. Like, genuinely interested. Sure, the other two episodes were good too, but they weren't making me think, you know, this is actually kind of interesting to think about. In a way, you could say that's how memorable this episode is, and yeah, I actually can say this is definitely memorable. Even if I'm not going to watch this a ton, still, I love this episode quite a bit. In fact, I'm actually shocked that this episode happened at all. Sure, we were all expecting Godzilla to come back at some point, but up against Hulk, that's such an interesting matchup that it actually works. By the way, it was cool then to include Ultimate Godzilla since, well, Godzilla vs. Gamera was back in Season 2, and it has been so long since that episode, so it was cool then to include everything as of making this. The combat here looks great, even the little gauntlet that Hulk actually uses looks cool. It's like the Infinity Gauntlet, but it's actually used to kill Ultimate Godzilla. By the way, when this episode actually did come out, I had no clue that Hulk was mainly invincible. I mean, sure, that happened with Broly, but not where he would die so many times. Either I didn't realize that or I completely forgot, because I'm not really a Marvel fanatic that much. I'll say this though, when Hulk finally goes through Godzilla's chest, and there were spikes coming out of him and throughout the rest of the city, I thought this was like some big finishing attack, but no, that was actually to symbolize that Godzilla died. It almost looked like he was using Stone Edge. That's actually something I mentioned in my reaction. Other than everything I just talked about, I sadly don't really have a ton more to say, but go check this episode out and you'll know why it's actually this high up on my list. And right outside the top 5 too. Now for the top 5 episodes. Well, okay, I'll discuss that in 4th place. But for now, let's go over one more episode before we get to the top 4.
No. Everyone, shut the fuck up.
For the first My Hero Academia villain death battle debut, Tomura Shigaraki vs. Mahito is an awesome episode. Alright, let's get 2 things right out of the gate. 1, the entire episode takes place in a fucking train station. I don't know, I just felt like exaggerating that. And 2, Skin Deep is an awesome track. I didn't expect it to have Japanese vocals, but the instrumental actually backs this up and makes this so fucking good. So here's my first thing to mention. For Tomura's voice, I thought, you know, they would actually use the voice that sounds like this. I mean, don't get me wrong, the voice performance in the episode sounds great, but I just thought maybe they would actually stick to the anime. Now, I've never heard of Mahito from Jujutsu Kaisen, but like some of the characters in death battles that actually make their debut, it was actually fun to actually get to learn about them through the analysis. The way these two use their abilities throughout the fight, like at the beginning where Tomura actually summons Nomu to attack Mahito, actually look fantastic. Even Mahito's transformation where he becomes this big blob, but then he actually appears to be whatever form that's called. I'm nowhere near an expert on Jujutsu Kaisen, so I'm sorry. Even the scene where Tomura is actually colliding with Mahito's hands and even the one behind him that's making this big hand thing, it looks fantastic. I know I'm repeating myself, but seriously, that's how good this episode looks. Oh yeah, and All For One's as of right now only appearance was actually great. Just him saying this one line. Hands off, my masterpiece. And the climax of the fight where Tomura actually decays literally everything around him up until he actually catches up to Mahito looks great. Even the dialogue he actually delivers is so fucking good. Seriously, Death Battle just keeps making banger after banger after banger episodes. That's how fucking good these are. Anyway, I think I can move on now. You all get the point of this one, right? This is nearly perfect, but there's 4 more episodes to go through. So without further ado, let's get started to the 4 episodes that 2 of them I've been meaning to get to, and 2 of them that I already reviewed.
I'm going to be on Death Battle! What?
When I was originally putting this list together, my top 4 were really hard to choose. Actually, you know what? I take that back. Only this entry and number 3 were hard to choose. I didn't know which one I could actually favor over the other, but upon thinking about this for a little while and actually taking my time making this video, I have officially made my decision. And a fair amount of you guys are actually going to be disappointed with this entry. Number 4 on this list goes to an episode that I actually reviewed. But which one is it? Is it Joker vs. Giorno? No, it's Ruby vs. Maka. Now hear me out when I actually place this in only 4th place. This fight, no kidding, has already been quickly forgotten about. Like, I thought this was the best episode, but then that lasted nearly maybe a month or 2, and then that just quickly stopped. In fact, me not watching this episode is the only reason why it's outside the top 3. Although I sadly can't place it any higher anyway. But even with all that aside, Ruby vs. Maka is still a phenomenal episode, and you can actually see how we're actually getting into some of my favorites of all time. Now, I'm not going to have a ton to say since I already reviewed this episode, so I'll leave the link in the description if anyone's curious. Although, if nothing else, this might be the best Ruby death battle we've gotten so far. Even though, I don't know if I mentioned this already, I love the other 3 episodes. Yes, I actually really like Yang vs. Tifa, even if the death was kind of wrong. But anyway, this is how you actually debut Ruby Rose, and it's done beautifully here. So yeah, again, just go check out my review if you want more details since I already talked about this episode once, so that's pretty much about it. Alright, so let's grab our rose petals and head on to the next entry. Actually, wait, no, I have a better idea. Let's scatter them on the path to the next entry. Yeah, that sounds better. If the transition somehow didn't give it away, Joker vs. Giorno is in my top 3. Now, why do I put this right above Ruby vs. Maka? Well, sure, my love for that episode, where I thought it was my favorite for a while, only lasted maybe nearly 2 months, but Joker vs. Giorno, I thought was my favorite episode for around a year before, well, other episodes came out. Now, like what I mentioned with Ruby vs. Maka, I'll leave my review for Joker vs. Giorno in the description if anyone's checking it out, because again, I already reviewed this episode. I don't really know what else to add other than I haven't really been listening to Requiem for a Thief lately, and I haven't even been watching this episode that much, but still, my opinion hasn't changed. This is still a fantastic episode, and easily the best Persona death battle we've gotten so far. If one day we do get Makoto from Persona 3 up against Archie-Sonic, I doubt that'll top this episode though. So, yeah, again, please just go check out my review where I gave it much more detail than this short segment. So now let's enter the top 2, shall we?
Gurren Lagann's mine, officer. Just who the hell do you think you are?
Remember my video where I talked about Spiral of Emotion, how that actually inspired me to create my Blue EOC finally? Well, it was all thanks to Simone versus Kyle. God fucking damn, this episode is just perfect on so many levels, except number 1. But this is so fucking close to being the best episode of all time for me. Also, I love Simone the Digger thanks to this episode. It was actually fun to learn about his character since I have no fucking clue what even Gurren Lagann was up until I saw this, so yeah, this episode inspires me in so many ways. Like I mentioned, the track Spiral of Emotion, 10 out of 10. That inspired me to finally make my Blue EOC Astral Healer. It even inspired me to do artwork in general. Like, I made Brisbane's very own Gurren Lagann from the Bluey series, mind you. I guess go check it out on Instagram if anyone's curious. I can't really leave an image, but yeah. Whenever I watch this episode, which is actually kind of frequent, I at least watch this once a week, I always have a blast watching this one. Yeah, this and the number 1 entry are both special episodes to me. This has been out for nearly a whole year already almost, and still, my opinion hasn't changed in the absolute slightest. This is a 10 out of 10 episode. So, where do I begin with my review of it? I guess I'll just talk about this front to back. I might not go into exact detail, but just go check it out and you'll know why it's only in 2nd place. The beginning starts up actually pretty cool with Simone's Gurren Lagann actually using the glasses as a boomerang to catch it, and we already get his good first one-liner. Alright, I'm not rusty at all. Oh yeah, by the way, that's something I should mention. Every single line that Simone actually says is actually kind of memorable to me. From who the hell do you think you are, to that inner monologue when Kyle's actually blasting Simone. Even the line of, I'm Simone the Digger, if I see a wall in my way, I'll smash it down. It's just done beautifully here. Oh yeah, and I should mention this, since Kyle is actually a White Lantern, he actually has access to the other Lantern Corps except Black for some reason. Anyway, they're all represented actually well here, from the yellow actually becoming a dragon at the beginning of the fight, to the red bullhorns, the White Lantern Superman. Seriously, every ability these two can make, it's just so memorable, cool, and it just makes me want to say so much positivity about this. Even the drills are actually so fucking cool. To when Simone uses Giga Drill 3, and when Kyle actually uses the other lantern cords to make a drill. Seriously, it looks so cool. I just love how you can actually use that. And the ending is kind of phenomenal. To where Kyle says the Green Lantern Oath, as the two of them beat the shit out of each other. Until they both get equally sized drill punches, and even when Kyle says Green Lantern's might, the two of them collide as Spiral of Emotion plays at the perfect time for the ending. And Simone delivers the biggest impactful punch I've ever seen yet. Seriously, I love everything about this episode. Now, you could think this is a shoo-in for the #1 spot, and I kinda wish I could agree with you, but there's just one more episode. An episode that I was beyond excited for as soon as I saw the teaser. Whereas this, I was kind of interested, but then I just wasn't really that interested until the episode came out. And sure, I was like that with Bowser vs. Eggman. But for this, my expectations were blown so much out of the water that this episode is just so important to me, and I fucking love it. This could get an 11 out of 10. But one episode, and I do mean it this time, could actually top this and actually become the best episode I've ever seen of Death Battle. I'm not even kidding with you. I feel confident this time when I think this is actually my favorite episode ever. I will say this though, if #1 somehow does get outdated, I could always go to this one if I actually need a backup or something. So, ladies, gentlemen, let's get to the episode I have been most wanting to talk about this entire season.
It's time for the moment you've been waiting for.
They waited 3 years! Fucking play it!
Like I mentioned at the end of my second best segment, this episode I have been beyond excited for ever since the teaser trailer after the ending of Dante vs. Clive. I have mentioned already, I pushed that episode aside in favor of this. Also, like I mentioned, I don't think anything could even top this one. This episode is so fucking special to me. Sure, Simone vs. Kyle was special to me too, but in a different kind of way. This was a matchup idea that I was actually very interested in for a few years, and after patiently waiting, I finally got to see two franchises, one that I like and one that's actually my second favorite of all time, go up against each other, especially since this is the first debut of... yeah, you already know. My favorite episode of not only this season, but of all time, is Ash vs. Yugi. Seriously, where do I begin with this episode? I guess I'll say this, the legends finally collide! I don't know, anyway, so this in my opinion is so much better of an army episode compared to Bowser vs. Eggman. All of Ash's Pokemon collide against Yugi's monsters that he could summon, and all of them look great. Oh yeah, Swallow Corfish and Glalie be mentioned on Death Battle, let's fucking go. No kidding, I couldn't stop watching Ash's analysis when it first came out. I'm just throwing it out there. Now, as for the track Millennial Monsters, this and Spiral of Emotion are two of my favorite Death Battle songs ever. These two might even be my favorite songs of all time. I fucking love both of these songs so much. Anyway, on to the actual battle. I love how so many of these Pokemon actually get their debut and return here. Like Lucario finally returns and we get to see the Mega version of him. Charizard gets his debut again, and even Pikachu finally comes back, which I'm happy about. Because Pikachu is my Pokemon partner, I guess, thanks to Ash. But I love Pikachu in general. Now for Yugi's side of monsters, it is cool that we do get Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl, but it is kind of a shame we don't get to see Blue Eyes White Dragon. But that's fine, maybe we'll get him one day. So for the Sky Dragon looks awesome. Even Horogdy looks really cool, a creature I've never even heard of until I found this episode. Like I mentioned, everything here just looks great. From Yugi's monsters to Ash's Pokemon, etc. You probably already know why it's so good. I will say though, the only part I don't like is how Yugi actually finishes Ash by using the magic cylinder. I think that's cheap, but I'm like, no! That was actually literally my first thoughts when I first saw this episode. Right when Pikachu uses 10 million volt Thunderbolt and then Yugi literally has to Uno reverse card it around. But I will say this though, when Ash and his Pokemon do lose, I am just grateful that they didn't have a gory death. Otherwise, I probably would have hated this episode, and I probably would have hated Yugi for it. I guess I'll mention that the dialogue for both characters, when they actually get to talk, is actually pretty well done. Oh yeah, Gigantamax Gengar actually looks awesome. I'm glad that he finally gets on Death Battle for once. Also, I like it when Greninja actually attacks the Millennia Puzzle and Yugi loses most of his life points. I just think that was funny, but also cool. A good way to actually knock him out, kind of, but not really though. Yeah, I'm sorry if you thought my review was gonna be like super long or anything, but I'm sorry, I don't know what else to talk about. But check out the episode for yourself, I can't recommend it enough. And that's it. Season 11 is finally done for me to actually talk about. Now, while I was making the second half of this recording, I recently found out that I did get 1,000 subscribers. And I thought I'd make this the 1K subscriber special, cause, I don't know, why not? It feels kind of appropriate, I guess. But I want to say this, though. Even though this is my outro, I want to say this. Thank you all very much for helping me get 1,000 subscribers. I wasn't really expecting this at all, but thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Thank you for just checking out my videos and hearing me yap about pretty much anything I feel like recording. I know my videos aren't really done professionally since I'm a one-man show unintentionally. I mainly just do everything by myself. But I mentioned this a few times already. It's not what's on screen, but rather what you can hear, because I think the audio recording is the most important part of how you actually get the video up. But again, thank you all very much for 1,000 subscribers. Definitely do not expect another season video because this took nearly 2 months to make and I just want to stop for now. So like I mentioned again, thank you all very, very much for just helping me get 1,000 subscribers. I really do appreciate all of you just sticking by me and checking out the random content that I actually have to upload. Whether it be serious, something lighthearted, or anything really. Thank you all very, very much. I never actually reached 1,000 subscribers on my previous YouTube channel, so this is definitely special to me and I can't thank you all enough. Consider this a little gift for actually helping me get this far on YouTube. So yeah, that'll be about it. I'll see y'all later with whatever we do next time, and that'll be all for now.